All right, we're going to see why that's not uncommon. You're not out there doing something that other people don't do. We'll also talk about why that is an open door, and maybe you ought to kind of think a little differently about it. Okay. Now, when I say ransomware, is everybody aware of some of the ransomware attacks that have happened in the area? Okay. You know, the city of Pensacola, all right, back in December kind of made big news. All right. But I will tell you that in the greater Fort Walton Beach, Destin area, that as you drive up and down 98 and some of the other streets, you know, there's over a dozen major players in this community who have fallen victim to ransomware. I'm not going to mention any names, but you'd be surprised. Okay. In addition to the city of Pensacola, this past year, Lake City, okay, Lake City got ransomed. Well, first of all, city of Pensacola, they got ransomed. $1 million is what's being asked. All right, they haven't decided whether they're going to pay it or not. They're trying to fix it without it. They have hired Deloitte & Touche to come in and do some consulting. So that's $140K right off the bat. All right. First thing Deloitte asked them to do was go out and buy security screening for all the city customers. Okay. So that costs another $150,000 to $200,000 depending upon which package they bought. All right. So they're already $350,000 into this thing before they've even considered whether they're going to pay the ransom or not. The real sad thing is that they did not have any insurance for a cyber attack. Okay? And being a major entity, quite frankly, I don't know how you don't purchase it. Okay? Lake City, $460,000. All right? They did have insurance. Okay? And their insurance company, which is Lloyd's of London, first thing they said was, we're going to pay it. Okay? We're going to get you back up and operate as quickly as possible. It's going to cost you your $10,000 deductible, but we're going to get this thing taken care of. Okay? IT director didn't have a job after that, but at least they were up and operating. Okay? Riviera Beach, small area outside Palm Beach County. All right? $600,000 in late May. Okay? Village of Biscayne. All right? So a little common theme that you see there, small, medium-sized cities, stuff that you wouldn't normally think that these hackers, okay, these, you know, I call them extortionists because that's what they are. They're criminals, okay, we'll go after them, all right? And it's not just that. School district, Manor, Texas, okay, had a phishing scam and they sent 3 separate transactions over the course of a month before they recognized that the account wasn't correct, okay? $2.3 million. All right, now for a school district, that's gonna hurt. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that, all right? Shark Tank, everybody heard about Barbara? Okay? How good do you think the security is of her companies? So, fell victim to a phishing attack. Email came in, looked right, and this was a very elaborate attack. Okay, so the email came in, looked correct, it was from one of the companies they do business with all the time. Okay? Had a bill for $388,000, asking for payment. You know, why hasn't this bill been paid? You know, so the accountant looked at it, said, on there was a link for a phone number to call, ask questions, so they made the phone call, okay, got a live person on the other end that went through the invoice with them and confirmed everything was correct, like they were from that other company, got the check, paid it. All right. Afterwards, as they were going through, they found out, and someone caught, and when they looked at the URL, that's the little address at the top up there, but there was one letter off in that URL from the correct client that they do business with all the time. Okay? It's easy to do, happen with anybody. So for mobile transactions, handhelds, tablets, the opportunity is rampant out there. Okay? And fortunately in our area, from a small business owner standpoint, we've now become the targets. Because the thieves have figured out that instead of spending weeks, months, years trying to hack into Wells Fargo or hack into, you know, a major player, that small, medium-sized cities, small, medium-sized businesses are easier targets. There's a lot of them. So although they may want to get $20 million from Wells Fargo, I can go out in a matter of 4 or 5 months, I can pull down 20 cities or 20 small businesses and make more money in the process. And with the advent of things like Bitcoin, it makes it easy for them to get the money than it used to be, okay? So as the cybercrime is on the rise out there, okay, and as I said, these are training professionals, what they do. One of the common denominators, stolen passwords, okay? That's why I was asking if you use the same password on the same site. We're gonna see some impacts of that in a second, all right? 85% of the businesses with 1,000 employees or less have already been hacked. They just don't know it. And that's where the real trouble comes in. For them to pull off the attack on Barbara Corcoran's company, they had to operate within that company for a month or two to figure out what's going on. One of the more common things we see happen is called CEO spoofing or CEO phishing. So someone will get access to the company, they'll quietly go in, they'll sit there and wait and observe, and they'll figure out who the CEO talks to, when he needs money, who does he send emails to. They'll look at his calendar to figure out where he's gonna be, all right? And so when the CEO leaves this week to go to Chicago for a meeting, on Wednesday afternoon, his executive assistant gets an email from him that says, hey, as you know, I'm up at the conference, just ran across this great opportunity to recruit a key individual. We need to have some money, okay? So can you get me $5,000 and wire it to here? Now, what's the percentage of probability that the executive secretary is gonna go, well, I'm not gonna do that, okay? Happens a lot, all right? Think back to the school district, $2.3 million in a month or two, okay? All the time. Email credentials is what everybody's looking to steal. And they're looking for the ones with a better PII. That's pieces of personal information, okay? Address, phone number, driver's license, social security, all right? And there's ways that that information is being gathered and then being sold out there on the dark web, okay? And phishing has become so successful that it's growing rapidly out there, okay? And we have to do everything we can to protect ourselves. Now, who's doing it? There may be, some of the typical hacker, mindset that comes in, somebody working out of, his mom's garage and going through and banging some stuff out. But those aren't the serious threats, okay? Primarily, you have nation states and organized crime are funding this, okay? It's an enterprise, okay? So you have a nation state over in the Mideast somewhere, in one of the STAN countries, okay? And they've got all the tools. And so the hackers will log in and they work cooperatively. The hackers will use the tools, they'll put forth the process of running the stuff out, okay? When they take somebody down, money rolls in, they split the profit, and off they go. And so now, all of a sudden, you've got these organized organizations with great tools. They've got great software. They got things designed to hack high encryption passwords rapidly. And they're taking their focus off of the Fortune 1000s, and now they've moved down into medium-sized businesses and small local governments, okay? So as we look at the ransomware and the threat evolving, what goes on, they're targeting on businesses because it's just more economical to do it. It's easier to work with, and they know it was a more ripe environment in doing it, okay? Recent survey, 66% of decision makers indicate they're extremely concerned, right? As they should be. Question is, are they doing anything about it? It's one thing to be concerned and take action. It's another thing if you're just concerned and are hoping that nothing occurs. And as, one of my college professors used to tell me, hope is not a very good strategy, okay? And he was right. Didn't work out for me in that course, all right? 45% of businesses that get ransomed and paid, all right? Unfortunately, of that, only 26% got their files unlocked. These folks are criminals. Just because you pay them doesn't mean that you get the information back, or that you get all the information back, or that you don't suffer a situation where they send the key out and you get unlocked and you hire the local IT guys, and they come in, they scrub everything, everything's all hunky-dory. In 90 days, it occurs again. Because since we're dealing with high-end criminals, they have the tools where they go in and hide a script of code and break it into 1,000 little bitty pieces and stick one piece on this line of code, 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 and set a timer on it, wait 90 days, and it just reconstructs itself, and then comes back out and initiates attack again, okay? Now, at this point, average cost of the attack, Who's got $900,000 laying around? If you do, I want to talk to you after the meeting. I got some investment opportunities we should talk about. All right? Now, I've seen that number be all over the board from $250,000 to some is $2 or $3 million. Okay? And you'll see scenarios like the city of Atlanta. Everybody remembers a year ago, the city of Atlanta got hacked. All right? Decided they were not going to pay for it. They were going to fix everything themselves. And they were patting themselves on the back, and we're all excited about the fact that they didn't succumb to pay the $500,000 the hackers asked, and they only spent $4.7 million fixing it. Typical government decision, right? You know. So old key is what can be done from an aspect of prevention. Oh, not hitting the wrong button. There we go. So ransomware is a piece of malicious software and strategy that comes in, establishes itself on your systems, and then goes out and encrypts the data. Okay? Doesn't steal it, doesn't take it, it just makes it worthless to you. Now, people go, well, if it's encrypted, can't we decrypt it? These guys aren't using low-level systems. Okay? They're doing stuff that is government grade, especially the nation states. This is high-end encryption stuff. You cannot get it back. All right? So you have to do everything you can to kind of to prevent that. And the more devious ones, say like in the Barbara Corcoran case or City of Pensacola case, okay, they'll sit in there for a couple, 3 weeks figuring out what they're going to do. Now, with the City of Pensacola, if there is such a thing as a criminal with a conscience, they got lucky, because that's what happened in Pensacola. Because that criminal didn't go in and encrypt the emergency response information and some things that could have really shut the city down. All right? They just went after billing, all the other annoyance kind of stuff. Okay? But you don't always get someone that has that kind of intention. All right? So, how do they get in? How's the easiest way to get somebody's password? It's through a process called spear phishing. Okay? And this has nothing to do with diving on the local reefs and going out there and having fun. All right? This is an organized, strategic effort to have you give them the information about passwords that you're using, okay? So they can begin working with it. Because if they can get even a portion of a password, all right? First of all, let's show hands. How many have a password that's more than 12 characters that has special letters, numbers in it? Okay? Once again, got some players in here. Okay? Even on something that's not encrypted, if you spot them 4 characters to it, they got stuff that, yeah, a day or two, they can finish the rest of it out. All right? And they'll test it. They'll run one example, see if it doesn't work, okay. And they'll just go through until they increment and get the whole thing done. Okay? Now, the stuff they're sending in is not like what we used to see 4, 5, 6 years ago, where it was misspelled. Okay, the margins were off, the logos, you could tell it was not real. You know, it was all, you know, this is top grade stuff. Okay? And this is an example of one of the services that we offer to our customers that we use to help them test their employees with. Okay? This is from Wells Fargo. Dear valued customer, your account's recently been locked. Okay? There's been some discrepancies, so we were concerned that your account was being hacked, so we've locked your account to protect you. How devious is that? It's a good spin, right? Click here, and we'll help you fix it. Okay? Unsuspecting person clicks it, comes to this page. I am a Wells Fargo customer. That is the Wells Fargo login page look. Okay? Now the URL and all is a little bit off, but if you're in a hurry, you always check that. Okay? I mean, people have Amazon accounts. Okay? That's what they're coming in with. You know, they're not, you know, they're using a variety of things to hope they can get you to give them, spot them a couple of letters. Okay? If not, even if you don't fall prey necessarily to send it back for your password, if they get a correct email to start with, that's a good jump for them work as well. All right? And they have literally thousands of these that run. All right? So it is a top quality attack with really good stuff You know, the simple space of back when they used to spell Wells Fargo with 3 L's and 2 S's on it, doesn't occur anymore. It looks good. We gotta protect ourselves, okay? So here's one of the first tips. If somebody sends you something unsolicited, don't open it. Just don't. If you think it may be from a business client, pick the phone up and call them and confirm that they meant to send that to you. If it's from somebody like an Amazon or your bank or whatever, don't open it. Go to the site itself, okay, and go get into your accounts from there. All right? But you know what? People get in a hurry. We're all busy. Okay? You know, we had a call recently from one of our clients where the executive assistant, right after she clicked the button, sent us an email or called us and said, I'm in trouble. Okay? And fortunately, she got to us quick enough that we were able to kind of help and mitigate that situation. Okay? So, the common denominator is the human factor. We can load all the tools in the world on your system. And believe me, we have some really good stuff. Okay? It's top notch. The stuff that we use is enterprise grade. All right, so when we use an antivirus, this is not, you know, AVG freeware. Okay, this is top notch stuff. But the weakest point in your business is the person sitting in the chair looking at the screen. Okay? Always has been, always will be. All right? And if we take a look, 76% of the people will use the same password for most, if not all, websites. All right? So they can get that off of one, then they're off to the races. Okay? So how do you prevent that from happening? How do you attack the human nature aspect? Okay? Well, there's other things that impact and compound that. Because we don't just have the hackers out there doing it. These guys have got to the point where they go, you know, they now approach from the aspect of that if the usernames and passwords are so valuable, why don't we go target the organizations that legally collect that? Now, let me see a show of hands. How many people heard about the People Day Lab or the PDL Lab breach back in November? We don't count, okay? All right, well, there are two organizations, People Day Lab and Oxy Data, okay? Legitimate companies. What these two companies do is they go out and they scour LinkedIn, Facebook, free public sites, and they build profiles of the users by pulling in publicly available information and building profiles. All right? They then legally sell those profiles to the marketing companies. So all those nice little ads that pop up that you just really hate, that's kind of where all that stuff comes from. All right? Well, these organizations got breached, okay, hacked in November. 1.2 billion records. All right, 1.2 billion records, and aside from Cameron and I, nobody in here heard about it. If you don't read the industry rags, you wouldn't know. Did some of that information impact us? Absolutely. I'm fixing to show you how it impacted the city of Pensacola. All right? So one of the things that we can do, which I'll offer for you guys if you like, is to do a dark web scan. Now, I've been mentioning the dark web. Who knows what the dark web is? Okay, a teenager can't raise his hand. That's not fair. Okay?
It's part of that.
Yeah, it's an evil part of the web. Okay, you know, all things that have two, you know, that are good have two sides. Okay, it has a good side and a bad side. Okay? So the dark web is that part of the internet that's where the criminals hang out. It's a really bad area. You don't want to go there. But you could go out and do a little Googling and download some browsers. Okay, and this afternoon, don't listen. And this afternoon, you could be surfing the dark web and be out there in the middle of all of it. My recommendation to you is don't go. Okay? Don't go. But these folks are existing out there. This is where they buy and sell all that information. Is on the dark web. So if I'm a hacker, I go to the dark web to contract tools, to buy stuff, and look for people who are selling passwords and usernames. Give me a jump. Okay? Make my life a little bit easier. So we're able to go out and run this. So I ran this report on the city of Pensacola, and I've got this in reverse order dating back to October. Now if we look, before the PBL breach occurred, you would go through and see, and I just had this one page, but you'll see stuff from innocuous websites or It may be a tool, there's a particular tool to help you build a free website. Okay, so they'll go pull information off that. You'll see everything from health club membership sites where they got information from and various different type of browsers they're pulling data in, okay? Because they're looking to try to get a jump on you. In early November, the PDL lab breach occurred, and then all the data that started being sold was being sold by PDL, okay, or from that particular breach rather. And the quality of information increased, okay? And so you had a very targeted, I hate to use the word attack, but you had a lot of information about the city of Pensacola stuff was out there for sale, okay? Because you know what? Although we didn't know anything about the PDL breach, these guys knew about it. So when that stuff hits the web, they're starting to buy it, okay? So we then roll into the end of November, and all of a sudden, well, back up, you notice there was no passwords in these things, except for one back there, okay? Then all of a sudden you start getting bits and pieces of passwords show up, okay? And then around the 7th or 13th, City of Pensacola got ransomed at that point, okay? That's how they get access, okay? Now, I will tell you, looking at this, just because there's an email address up there doesn't mean necessarily it's accurate. It means that thieves are selling it, and other thieves are buying it, and people are attempting. Okay, so as a business owner, if you've got a lot of people working for you, that might be pretty good information for you to have access to, so that you can send an email out to your employees and go, okay, everybody, guess what today is? Today is change your password day. Okay, and it's got to be 8 characters long. You have a number, special character in it, okay, and 1 capital letter in there, all right? And by doing that, at least you protected yourself. But that's how these attacks come together, all right? So first they'll phish you, gather some stuff, hopefully, and we run phishing simulations. We've done one recently for one of our own customers. And if we're in talking to this customer, they spend 20 minutes explaining to us how active their own in-house training program is. Everybody that comes on the company, okay, goes through 6 weeks of training. Okay, 1 day of that training is cybersecurity, do's and don'ts on the web, blah, 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 so forth, so on. Okay, we're covered. Thanks for offering, but we're not interested. I said, okay, I understand. And by the way, congratulations for the fact that you've got a program in place. A lot of people don't have a program in place. The number of people that I talk to that are doing what I call this whistling by the graveyard is scary, quite frankly. So I'm talking to them, we said, well, here's an idea. Why don't we do this? For no charge, why don't you let us run a simulation, okay, and we'll send a couple of things in and see what happens, okay? So with 119 email addresses, we sent the first one in. We had 7 people click on and open it. 2 people clicked on the link and responded back with credentials. Okay? Second one went in, all right, which I find ironic because the second one was about 8 days after the first one, so everybody inside the company knew something was going on, because as soon as I sent that report over to the IT guy, I guarantee you what happened as soon as he hung up with me. Okay? Next one went in, and we got more responses and more clicks, including the owner. Okay? It happens. Okay? Now, does that mean the training they had was no good? No. It just means it was not regular enough. You have to keep this forefront of people's minds. And with the automated systems that we have, it makes it simple. Okay? To send stuff out there on an automated basis. And we do both sides of the equation. We do a little training. All right, let me see a show of hands. Who's all excited about spending 30 minutes in training on a computer? Exactly. Nobody. If your company threatens you with a job, if you don't do it, I'll tell you what I did for 35 years in corporate America. I'd click and turn it on, go make a sandwich. Okay? Finish running yet? Nope. Oh, I got to answer a question. C, go back in. Okay? So the training videos that we send out in topics are 5 minutes, 6 minutes. Real quick, real simple. Okay? And then after that, we run the phishing test to see what happens. Okay? So we provide information back to the customer. And for some of the utilities and some of the cities that we do this with in the area, we see that the click rate has gone down to almost zero. Occasionally we get a zero, but if we can get that down to 1%, 2% of just opening and none clicking on the link, they're exponentially safer than they were before. Okay? And that's the key there. So these costs that we see are expensive and they're going up. Okay? $2.1 trillion last year. 73% of the population has at least one compromised credential and they don't know it. Okay? Somebody's got your name, address, driver's license. Okay? And they're beginning to work on that. Okay? 18% of the population is compromised with a bad social security number out there. All right? How much damage can you do if you got name, address, social security number on somebody?
A lot.
A bunch. And social security numbers aren't easy to change. Are they? Right? You don't want to do that. So small businesses are at great risk out there. Data stolen from businesses, immediately get out there on the web, on the dark web. And it arrives there because the thieves know they can sell it and make money off of it. Even if they only make $1 or $2 for each entry, they sell that 50,000 times this month. And if it's data that comes from something like the PDL breach, where people go, oh, this is really good stuff, maybe it gets sold 250,000 times that month, and off they go. Okay? And one of the problems that happens, as pointed out here, all right, most of the breaches that they investigate, because they're private companies, there's no information about it. It doesn't hit the news. Okay? You know, so when the local utility or the big car company or whatever in the area gets breached, if that doesn't make it to the local news, do they volunteer that information? No. And that stuff is flying around out there. Okay? So I put some tips here together. Actually, I didn't put some tips. I stole these. Okay? Actually, I borrowed them. All right? And this is from the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA. If you're going to go into security, that's who you want to start tracking, right? Because they set the standards. All right? First tips. Number one, update the software and operating system for the latest patches. Let me see a show of hands. How many of you are absolutely certain that every piece of software on your computer is currently and properly patched? Got a couple of really paranoid people. Oh, and by the way, it's not paranoid if folks are actually after you. Okay? And with these guys, they're actually after you. So you're not being paranoid. Okay? You have to make sure that's the first step. Now, how many of you have tried to do a Microsoft patch update and it didn't install properly? Okay? Well, if you try a couple times and it doesn't get installed, and you're a month or two past the update, how exposed are you? Very. Exactly. I'm going to have to hire you to come to the next seminar. Okay? Next thing, you have to train and test your employees. Because as we said earlier, it doesn't matter how much really cool stuff, and we've got powerful tools that we use. Okay? Top-notch stuff. But, you know, it doesn't matter how good the locks on the door of the house are. You leave the window open, they come in. All right? So you got to train them, you got to test them. But it's got to be easy. It's got to be repetitive. Okay? That means from our standpoint, we have to make it affordable. Okay? And the great thing is that's available out there today. Never, ever, 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 ever click on a link or open attachments in an unsolicited email. If you got a customer that you've been doing business with for 50 years, if you don't think this is right, ask Barbara Corcoran. Okay? That sends you an unsuspected bill or something that you're not expecting, pick the phone and call them. Hey, Mike, I got this invoice, or you sent me this attachment, or you sent me this document. Okay? I had a LinkedIn, have a former business associate of mine, owns one of the largest copier companies in the United States. Their sales this year will be $175 million. They're in 16 states in the Southeast, including Florida. Okay? I've known this guy for a long time, 20 plus years. They got a good organization in place. Guess who got their LinkedIn account hacked this past week? All right? And the guy that hacked the LinkedIn account started sending emails out to everybody in his LinkedIn contact list trying to sell stuff. All right? So if you get something that you didn't solicit, do not open it. Call them, go to the original website yourself and check on it. Okay?
I have a question. So when you get an email, I sometimes will look at the address, but I mean, I click on it to look on the address, so don't even click on it?
If you can avoid clicking on it, don't.
You
Okay?
should-
Now,
You should be able to see the address by hovering over before you click on it. So that's usually the best way to check it before you click on it. But quite honestly, I would, if you get, it drives me nuts. eBay is one of the worst about these, that when, and I apologize, Chuck, I'll keep it
that's
short.
okay.
Yeah.
That when you have someone purchase something from you, they'll send you an email saying, hey, your auction closed, click here to go ahead and, communicate. I wish they would take those off of there. They should say, log into eBay and go ahead and complete your transaction. This is your notification. I can go use a bookmark, I can type ebay.com. The amount of time it saves me to go click is not worth the security risk.
Yeah.
And so I don't know why they still have that, because what's happening is all of these notifications that come out, whether it be your bank, your investment company, your doctor's office, your attorney's office, your title company, and title companies are really getting away from this. Most of them, when you see any sort of closing transactions, they're like, call us before you send money, because they've had it happen so much with wire transfer fraud. So yeah, the main thing is you should be able to hover over it and see where it goes. If it's like, hey, click here to get an encrypted email, I've seen that happen a lot, and sometimes a really long URL, you can't just type it. But always hover over it first and make sure that it's barracuda.com.
Is it better to hit it in trash or spam?
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
And when you remove it, like to put it right into trash or put it in
Oh,
spam?
Usually delete it. If you have a spam filter plugin for Outlook, then usually marking it as spam will then submit it back to whoever is the authority for that, so it helps improve the reputation recognition. And if they get enough people going, this is spam, this is spam, this is spam, it adds to the heuristics. And they go, hey, there's 4,200 claims that this site is sending spam, we're gonna go ahead and take them on and add them to the blacklist. Stop
Thank
there.
you.
Get the best antivirus you can afford. Okay? Plain and simple. All right? Now, there's a bunch of stuff out there that you gets free. All right? And a good friend of mine used to live across the street before he passed away, a retired personal injury lawyer from Texas. We used to talk all the time. Quite frankly, some of the stories he told would just be like, curl your toes. But, one of his famous adages is, free advice is worth what you pay for it. Okay? So get a really good antivirus and get a new one. Don't get an old one. If you got an old antivirus that you've been using, okay, it may be the current version of what they have, but it may not be current in the technology that you need to have. Okay? What we're seeing is that the really good antiviruses today, like we use, are designed that they themselves respond automatically to the threats. They look not just at where did this come from, but how is this acting? What's going on with this? Okay? So looking more from an artificial intelligence standpoint and behavioral on that versus just it came from XYZ aspect, really getting inside of it. Take a look.
So,
Okay.
question. So from a professional standpoint, what are the top three?
Well, we're partial to one that we use called Sentinel-1, okay? Primarily because of the fact that not only does it have the latest techniques and was the first to do, it's an EDR, so it's an endpoint, okay, that also has a response system built into it, all right? As well as it combines what's known as a SOC, Secure Operations Center. So if something comes in and triggers, that gets sent over to the analyst, and you got a group of people outside Georgia in the States that go through and look at that. All right, so the first thing they do is they quarantine it, and then they send it over to people to analyze, take a look, see what it is. And sometimes you can have something give you a false positive. One of the worst people in the world for not signing the certificates, anybody want to take a guess? Microsoft. They're sending stuff out unsigned. All right?
Can I take this as a technical
Sure.
question? You asked for the top three, and I actually can't give you top three, I'll give you top two. Sentinel-1 is widely recognized as a next-gen AV. The other one would be Silence. Those really are kind of the top two in the market right now. There may be some others. Next-gen is such a vague term, but if you say next-gen AV, there are some specific competitors out there that are doing, and what Chuck's talking about is behavioral analysis. So it used to be, we can recognize the pattern of a virus based on a signature. Here's the code of the virus. Well, as soon as the mutation engine came out, that was over, because now they can do a million iterations of every single virus that exists in a day. And so there are literally tens of millions of different viruses coming out every day. None of them are the same. If you can make a virus to send out to somebody and it's the same as an old one, you're just stupid. There's too many ways to scramble it, and send out something that traditionally AV won't recognize. So they said, all right, we're gonna use reputation-based. So then a lot of tools like WebRoot, which is what we have been using for a lot of our clients, and we're now switching over to SentinelOne, because we're getting to the point where as we're putting SentinelOne on it, it's doing behavioral-based analysis. It's going, hey, this looks like it's suspicious, and we're going, why didn't WebRoot catch this? And it's catching a lot of what we call potentially unwanted programs. They're not necessarily they're not intentionally malicious, but they're not well vetted, and they become a gateway to easily allow advertisers to infect, or someone who takes advantage of an advertiser to infect your system. But those are the two, SentinelOne and Cylance are who I would recommend.
Is it CENT?
SENTINEL. One, and then Cylance is CYLANCE.
Thank you.
Next thing is, CISA recommends restrict the user permissions, okay? Users should only have permissions that are necessary for them to do their job function, okay? You don't want to have, 10 people with administrative rights on the network. That's just an open door, okay? So keep it locked down, okay? We need to enable strong spam filters. The better they are, okay, to help stop the spoofing from coming in, the better off you are. You want to configure your firewalls to block the known IP addresses and use good commercial grade firewalls, okay? You want to use strong passwords. Now, how many people know what two-factor authentication is? Okay, is everybody using it? Okay, if you're not, set it up. Okay, it's relatively simple. You can go to YouTube and they'll step you through. Most all of your major credit cards and banks and everybody have that as access. Have them send the second one back to your phone, send you a text, okay? And that goes a long way, all right? Because once again, you're making this much more complex. This is layer security that we're putting in place, okay? Back up the data on a regular basis. Keep it separate from everything else, okay? We would recommend, because we're in the business, that you don't just back up the data, but you do an image of the system, okay? Because if you have just the data backed up and you lose the computer, what do you have to do?
Re-enter everything.
You gotta rebuild it. Okay, you gotta get all the applications back, you gotta start from scratch to rebuild this thing. How many people have all the original software and service codes, okay, with everything you ever bought? Nobody. Well, except you. Okay? Very, very few people, and in a business, it's almost impossible to keep up with that stuff, all right? But if you do a process that was an image, where effectively, if you think out, we make a copy of everything on the network, all the drivers, all the settings, all the passwords, all the security information, every PC, everything, how the servers are set up, everything, okay? We put that in a secure location off-site, and then every day, we just have to worry about changing the data that has changed, or working on the delta, okay? So in that case, if you get corrupted, all right, which once again, hate to pick on, but something that they did have a very good job set up in the city of Pensacola, all right? If you've got good images, you can spin up in an hour, 2 hours, okay? Virtual machine, and you're back operating from that standpoint, okay? All right? But if you don't do anything but back it up, put it on a thumb drive, put it in a safe in the house someplace, keep a backup. So in case something catastrophic happens, you can recover from that. All right? Now, have I substantially scared everybody? Didn't mean to. Hopefully, it gives you some information to help kind of protect yourself. Okay? You know, it's a scary environment, but you know what? With a little bit of training, with a little bit of the right tools, with a little bit of a consciousness about what you're doing, you can take really good steps to help protect yourself from that standpoint. Okay? Now, we offer that if anybody wanted to have a dark web scan, like I showed you for the city of Pensacola, just drop off your business card with me. I'll be glad to do that. I'll get that information back to you. All right? And if you have any other information or any other questions or requests for information, we'd be glad to come out, sit down with you, go through, and give you some ideas and learn more about your networks and what you guys are doing, and kind of share with you some of the things that we do for some of our major accounts and players in town. And we represent a significant number of large companies, both commercial, people like Preston Hood, okay, in the area, to governmental entities, Destin Water, South Walton Water, Auburn Water Systems, okay, fire districts and stuff. We've got some expertise in a lot of areas, and can help you sit down and structure, and look at your network, and maybe you'll need a tweak here or there to put in a significant improvement from a security standpoint. Okay? All right, quick show of hands. How many people think this is worth their time?
Absolutely.
We'll be talking about a raise later. Thanks for coming out. I certainly appreciate it. Okay? And also too, if you do me a favor, when I have one of my cards up here, if you have any tips or suggestions of what we could do to make these things more entertaining going forward, to get more people involved in this, let us know. Okay? You know, because we really think that this kind of information, a lot of people should have access to it, and for some reason, it's just falling on deaf ears. Okay?
And whatever you do, do not go search the dark web yourself.
Oh,
You will get it, you
We'll
will
get
get
infected.
something, you
Oh,
will
yeah.
get something, do not do it
So
yourself.
it's a browser?
The dark web's a space, okay, it's a part of the internet, it's the internet, it's part of the internet, okay? You have to have special browsers to get to it, okay? But it'd be like, to go to the dark web would be like going over to Hunan, Japan, or China right now, and going around licking doorknobs, okay? You're gonna catch something in there, because they're all thieves, they're all criminals. Okay? That's the reason the service that we use acts as that buffer, okay, where you don't have to get out and do that kind of stuff, and you don't want to do it. Very good point.
For the two-part authentication, my bank does it, and it didn't give me a choice, which I like. But how, is there a way to do that for everything? Like you had mentioned signing up for some, so is there a way personally I can do something? Or is it
Well,
just?
there's a couple, most places that are doing credit card transactions, banking, will have that on their site that you can sign up for. Okay, so one of the easiest is to just check from that credit card company or banking entity or whatever to see.
Any of my credit card financial companies should have that.
Yeah, and check from that standpoint. If not, there are, you know, additional third-party authentication systems, but that's gonna link back to that entity as well.
How many people here use Office 365? Just a few? Right. Do you have two-factor authentication turned on there?
Yes.
Okay. A lot of people don't. And the reason I point this out is that your email, you may, it's just my email. But keep in mind, any site that you go to usually allows you to reset your password as long as you'll respond to an email. So if they can get into there, they can get to almost everything else. So that actually is one of the most crucial points to secure. It's not hard to do, but it does require your administrator to go into the back end of Office 365 and go ahead and say either enable or enforce, require everybody to do this. And when users log on, it'll then say what type. Microsoft has 3 different types of two-factor. One of them is basically, it'll text you. Everyone's familiar with that, get a text on the phone. The other one is a code that sits on, they've got a little app you can download, and there's just a 6-digit code. And the third one actually ties right to their app. When you go to log in, it sends a message and your phone will pop up and say, hey, you're trying to log in, is this you? And you can go, yep, and it actually logs straight in after that. One of the big benefits of either the text or the app is that if somebody does get your password and try to log in, you know.
They don't have
You
to
get
file
notified that someone has
Yeah.
punched in your username and password. It's a good time to change the password.
Thank you. So, Apple versus Microsoft.
So Apple has what we call security through obscurity, and normally I would say that's not true security, but it has really worked well for them. Now that said, Apple has a lot more malware targeted at it than it did 10 years ago. So they do exist. The Bash vulnerability is something that existed for over a decade, and it was just discovered, you know, a year and a half ago. That's scary to know that something existed as a vulnerability for 10 years. And somebody finally just went, hey, this seems like it's got a hole in it. You go, well, how many people discovered it before then? And went, yeah, it does. I'm going to take advantage of that. So.
When I have a Mac and I'm constantly doing my updates because they said you have to in order to truly be secure. 'Cause I've been noticing more and more updates,
Yeah.
so it's like, ooh.
Well, the scary part about the
It's getting
operating
tougher
system
there.
is that I like to go out and see the reviews on it because sometimes there's hang-ups
Oh, yeah.
and things that it's like, I'll wait a while.
Well, that's one of the key services that we provide for our customers when we're remotely monitoring and managing the patchwork. Okay, because sometimes that first, once again, Microsoft is the world's worst. Okay, you know, and I'm contradicting myself. Don't go out and upgrade. Don't take the first Microsoft OS update. Okay, because it's not good. You wait for the next one. Okay, but that's one of the things that we'll do is, you know, we'll come in and we'll look at the patches that come in and we'll identify those. All right, maybe we'll do a little test on it to see before it gets passed through. Okay, but at some point, okay, you know, so if they come out with, update, 15,000.2, and you watch it, and, 30 days go past and they haven't put out another update, probably go ahead and do that one.
So to answer your question a little more specifically, which is better? Better is vague. As an IT service provider, I can do a lot more in an environment that has PCs. I can control, contain, manage, monitor, and take care of that environment. It's much harder to do that with Mac. There are some tools that exist. They're very limited in scope and capability. So I usually recommend to most businesses, if the owner or the execs want to have a Mac for themselves, not a bad idea. I wouldn't do that typically for rank and file for everybody else in the organization, because then I can't give you the same tools and support that I do all of my other clients. And again, it depends how much involvement there is. If you have a crucial system that, for operations, you've got to have that system running all the time, and it does production, I would make it a PC. Because you're just going to have a lot more capacity and potential as far as what can be done with that device. Yes.
Is it easy to hack into the phones?
Not an iPhone. iPhones are probably the most secure. So if you ask me which is better around security, iPhone or Android, iPhone by far much less hacked than Android. It's a little harder to get apps published on the Apple Store than it is at Android. That said, there are absolutely fake apps, there are malicious apps, and there are apps that were legitimate that got purchased by a criminal organization because one of the biggest gaping holes in Apple's iPhone security was, hey, do you want to allow us access to your address book? Well, sure, this is the thing that helps me scrub dupes or whatever, so you have to have access to my address book. Or I want you to have access to my address book because you're my GPS, and I've got everybody's address in there, so I'm just going to type the name, and then you can look them up and tell me where they live. The problem is it gave carte blanche access to everything in there. People would put in the notes social security numbers, credit card numbers, all kinds of bank account numbers, and they're like, oh, it's on my phone, it's secure. But as soon as you say, sure, you can have access to my address book, any app had access to everything in the address book. They fixed that since then, so it's not as bad as it used to be. But Android tends to be much more fractured, and it's a much more capable device as a result. The downside is its hackers are much more capable with it too.
So regarding the apps, you know how a lot of apps now want to know your location?
Mhm.
Is that safe? Because
So-
a lot of them ask for it.
Here's the misnomer. The app will say, do you want to always allow, especially with Apple, do you want to always allow it to know your location, or only when it's running? Well, if you say only when it's running, it can only access your location when it's running, but guess what else it can do? It can read all the history. And so it can actually go back, and even if you weren't running the app, it can go back and look at your history. And so again, I think Apple has improved the security on this, but a lot of these devices, the GPS has a log of where you've been, and if you grant the app access to your GPS, it's not just now, it's every place I've ever been. And so there've actually been some video specials on that particular security vulnerabilities that, well, you're giving a lot more information away than you realize.
So you shouldn't be allowing them, but then you wouldn't get the information you needed.
How do you, it's this, yeah, there's a real conundrum. I mean, it's a dilemma.
Yeah.
I want to be able to have the convenience and ability of this, but what am I giving away? And everyone is different. And you ask them, can I turn on two-factor for everything? It completely depends on the provider, whether or not they've added it there. TD Ameritrade is who I've been using for my trading engine, and it took them until like a year ago. They didn't have two-factor, and I call them and go, please, why do you not have this? All of the banks have it, and so they finally have it.
So is there any, like, I have a number of different people that have my email addresses, like one will be like retail outlets and things like that, but for like certain websites, I don't ever purchase anything, I don't ever give them a credit card, they just have an email and a password. Is that relatively safe? Or-
So it may or may not be safe. If they don't have your credit card and somebody goes there, they can look at your purchase history. I wouldn't worry about that. That sounds really low security, low risk to me.
But if
So I
I
wouldn't.
use the same password on other things, then that.
Yeah.
There's your risk.
Yes.
So there's actually a list of about 15 different attack vectors that we cover for our clients, and one of those is password manager. So there's this thing called password burnout. Password burnout is the vast majority of computer users, average user has at least 21 accounts. And they use the same password or 2 or 3 passwords for every single one of them, because you can't remember more than 7 things. And if you gave me 7 passwords, I don't know that I could remember them. I use about 3 that I have in my head. Everything else is 2-factor, and every single one of my websites that I access is a different password. I have no idea what the password is. I couldn't tell you, but it's in my password manager. I type in my password in my password manager. I type in my 2-factor. It fills out every single web page I go to for me. So I go, here I am, and it goes, there's a username, there's a password, click OK, and it logs me in right away. So it takes a little bit of time and effort to set up the password manager and put new passwords on those sites, but once you've done it, it returns that effort in spades because you never have to go look up or remember, did I do that one with a capital, or did I put an exclamation on the end? You know, how did I change one character to make it a new password, you know? So, and that's what people are doing, and unfortunately, what Chuck was saying specifically about if they get part of a password, a lot of people will take a password and just modify it a little bit. You'll see some sites will say, that's too much like the last one. Microsoft is really good about that. They'll actually do a contained comparison and go, this contains a sequence on your previous password that is too similar. And so they won't let you get away with that. They'll say, you're really just trying to change one letter or one word or throw another character on there. That's not real security. Especially if you do a dark web search, and I've seen this happen where I'll do a dark web search, I'll tell a client, hey, your password's compromised. They go, okay, I'll change it. And I'm like, that's not enough of a change. you need to do more because somebody has that password. If you're gonna modify 2 characters, I don't even need a brute force grind. I can do that in 30 minutes just trying to log in.
So the password managers, I just recently started using them within probably the last 3 or 4 months.
What do you use?
The Apple.
Okay, so Apple's chain, what's it called? iChain, Cloud Chain? Something.
Right.
It's keychain.
Keychain, thank you,
Yeah.
Keychain. Theirs is pretty good. It used to be that Chrome and Firefox and a lot of browsers would say, hey, do you want me to remember your password? And I would tell everybody, I'm like,
No.
no, don't ever do that. Because there was no encryption. And if you wrote any sort of malware that was worth its weight in salt, you'd be like, hey, let's grab all the passwords here and go ahead and send them back to home. Because the passwords were just stored clear text in the browser. Really bad design. Since then, that's been fixed. So that's, you can use Chrome to store your passwords. It does encrypt them now. It's not, to me, a password manager that has the level of security and encryption and protection that I'd like to see, but it's not bad. And so I don't tell people don't put your passwords in Chrome anymore because it's reasonably secure. That said, LastPass, KeyPass, Dashlane, any of those. We actually use Passportal, which is something that allows us to collaborate with our clients. So it gives us, hey, here's all the passwords we're going to use together, and then here's your passwords. We don't get to see that stuff. And so we give them basically sort of a database that's completely protected, secured. They can put their own stuff in it. If they decide, hey, Cameron, it's been nice, but we're going to depart, they have the ability to print out all their passwords and take it with them, and then when we deactivate their account, all that stuff is completely gone. There's also an auditable database that says here's who's accessed those passwords. So if I have somebody leave my company, I can go, well, I need to know all the passwords that guy had, and we have to go ahead and change them because he may have written them down or had access to them and may still be able to log them.
So with that said, was the keychain on Apple, is that secure?
Yeah, it's pretty good actually, and it syncs between the phone, the tablet, the
So that
Mac.
was my concern, 'cause I have a.
But you can't use it on a regular browser on a PC. Apple's keychain, it's
I
only gonna
don't
be for your.
think so. I don't think they have any
No,
sort
I
of.
think it's all, yeah, it's all,
Yeah, it has
Something
to be.
like
announced a bunch,
LastPass
yeah.
is global, you can use it on everything, you know. It's, keychain is convenient for your phone, but that's really,
For residential clients, I recommend LastPass
yeah.
everywhere, and it's free for the basic functions. If you want mobile, it's like $12 a year. It's $1 a month. To not do that and keep using Excel spreadsheets or pieces of paper to me seems silly. You have that. What's great is with the mobile, even if you don't have internet, you still have a copy on your phone. Now somebody came to me once and said, "Hey, did you hear that LastPass got breached?" And I was like, "Not the security database, but they did have a breach on their website." Which, immediately everybody goes, "Oh no, it's a breach." It's, no, not to the actual database engine, but just to their public-facing website, completely different system. But it still freaks people out because they go, "Well, it's under the same brand name." I'm like, yeah, but they probably don't even do their own website. They probably have somebody host and do that for them. So I would just about guarantee you it's not on the same server, it's not the same engineers.
That's funny, you're talking about remembering passwords. See a show of hands for people who used to have 50 or more phone numbers memorized.
Oh, phone numbers years
I-
ago, yeah.
Yeah, they're old, that's old people. Yeah.
Yeah, they were 7 digits.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, yeah.
I
Oh, yeah.
got 10 in letters.
Oh,
Letters, that's right.
I remember 5 digits, that's.
Yeah, so now we're about passwords. At one point, I had 275 clients memorized along with extension numbers.
Oh my.
And I would catch myself remembering the number because I would close my eyes and imagine on keypad where they were at, remember those numbers, because you called them so often. But I don't know what happened with that space, it got repurposed for something else. You know, now if I lose my phone and my son called, you know, I'd be like, holy crap. What's Chad's number? I have to call my wife. What's Chad's number? Yeah, because you get dependent upon the technology, right?
So do you recommend VPNs for your clients for wireless? Do you use that or not?
Yes, so
Okay.
if you're gonna be traveling and you're gonna use public Wi-Fi, it is a really good practice to go ahead and have some sort of VPN that you connect to that routes all your traffic. If it's a residential user and you want privacy, then to me Nord is one of the best ones, it's got a good reputation, and so it'll anonymize you. But when it comes to a business, if they have a firewall at their office, to me it doesn't make sense not to have any of the business computers run all the traffic back through that firewall. Now, that'll eat up your bandwidth both inbound and then turn around back outbound.
Yeah.
So it consumes it, and that can be kind of a lag. I've had some clients complain if they don't have a bunch of bandwidth at their office, but they go, wow, it seems really slow. And I go, well, you have a 20 meg pipe at your office, and you're trying to run video, and you're on maybe a 50 meg pipe at the hotel, and so you get, 10 in, 10 out. Yeah, it's gonna be slow, yeah.
Okay.
So there's a trade-off.
Yeah.
I wouldn't use public Wi-Fi without, but it depends what I'm doing. If I'm gonna get on Facebook, I use public Wi-Fi. I don't care. You can have my Facebook account. I'm not gonna be real concerned about it. If I'm gonna get on my bank, I'm not gonna do it on public Wi-Fi, so, because there's a man-in-the-middle attack that can occur there. If you search Hack5 Pineapple, they sell a little computer, it's about $150, has dual Wi-Fi capability, runs on a 12 volt, you can do like a 1500 or 2000 milliamp battery, it'll run it for a few days. You can take it and drop it in a planter somewhere and say, hey, I want you to capture all the Wi-Fi traffic in the area, and it'll go ahead, and you can also say, I want you to hook up to that access point over there, and then you're gonna broadcast the same SSID. And what that means is that somebody's walking around, and if there's no, for example, here, the guest Wi-Fi for chamber, there is no password to connect. So if there was Pineapple closer to me than the main AP, I walked over there, I would say, hey, I'm the same network, and my phone would go, okay, we'll talk to you instead then. And it would switch. And then all my traffic would go through there. Well, what would happen is it would take my traffic, it's connected to the main AP, and it would just pass it on. But meanwhile, every site that I go to that it says, hey, you need a secure socket in order to connect to this, it'll go, okay, well, we'll go ahead and take that. Now we're gonna make our own SSL certificate and give it to you, and you're gonna use ours. So we're gonna decrypt the traffic as it comes over the internet, read your information, we're gonna re-encrypt it and then give it to you, and it's gonna look like it's been in the box the whole time. But we opened it up at customs and checked it and put it back in there and sent it on to you. There's ways to identify that, but it's a really good attack.
So if you're out and about and you wanna say, do some banking on your phone, would you recommend just turning your Wi-Fi off? And
Yes,
using
it would be
data?
better to do it over 3G or 5G or whatever you got,
As
over
opposed
the
to-
cellular. That said, there are cellular hackers too. It's harder. They have their own VPN between them
Right.
and their
I
internet.
just know like a lot of us, when you walk into Walmart or anywhere there's an AT&T public Wi-Fi, it connects automatically without you even realizing it.
Mhm.
And so I guess it would be probably good practice if you're not using a VPN just to
If there is
turn your
no-
Wi-Fi off if you're gonna do something like that.
Yeah, if there is no authentication, which means no password, understand there is the likelihood that there could be a man-in-the-middle attack. And I've seen it happen. It doesn't never happen, it's rare. I don't see it happening often. At least I haven't had people report it to me. But I had an employee who went overseas to Asia, and he had it happen to him because he was in a country where it was a very dense population. He was in an airport, and he went, yep, got infected.
So even though banks have the double authentication, still when you walk in and you're accessing to look and see, something, they can
Here's the
still
risk.
grab.
So the double authentication would protect you, but if you connected to a man-in-the-middle device that then was decrypting and re-encrypting your information, you would be granting them your username and password. Now, the good news is when they go to log into your bank account, if they aren't doing it right away while you're on, then they would have to get that two-factor token from you. It changes every 30 seconds typically, or you're gonna have to send a text message. It only works one time. So if they try to log on, you're gonna get a text message saying, hey, here's your code to log on. And that's when you go, I haven't changed my password. You know? So that's what I would do.
Quite the cat and mouse game.
Mm,
Worthwhile day?
yes.
Once again, thanks for coming out, we appreciate it. If there's anything we can do to help you guys, you just wanna have a conversation, bounce some stuff off of you. And like I said, everybody's got my cards, if you'd like for me to run a dark web scan, okay, just shoot me an email, okay, because I'll have your domain address, be glad to do it and get with you on that. Okay, you know, and if I run it, take a look at it, and there's like 2 things from 5 years ago, I'll just call you up and go, okay, you're okay. Okay, had a local business here recently I ran, and I've been doing this, you know, for a little while, and typically I'll see 20 or 30 or something. Okay, I ran a local business not far from here, had 500 hits on it, had 110 in the month of January. Okay,
Stolen
some
credentials.
yes, and that's some activity going on right there. Okay,
So one of the things a lot of people don't understand about the dark web scan is you can secure your network as much as you want, but if someone hacks Facebook or LinkedIn or the Office of Personnel Management or whatever, and you're using the same password, now they've got that password, and it's not your fault they got it, it's whoever was managing that network, but it doesn't matter because they're gonna go sell it on the dark web. So that's where we can say, hey, here's a list of people claiming they have your credentials on the dark web. And some of them will actually have a password, some of them will have a hashed password that we can actually grind out and tell you here it is, some of them we can't. But quite often we can say, hey, is this your password? And that's when people go, how'd you get my password? And I go, it's for sale on the dark web. Did you hack it? No, somebody else did. How did you get it? You know, well, we have a company that goes and finds this stuff.
So speaking of that, so LinkedIn, when you have a name shoot across that they're wanting to be a friend, and you don't know them, you just don't accept it.
Boy, I tell you, there's more and more of those. And
Yes.
what it is they're fake accounts trying to get to know you and your
Phishing,
organization. And the thing about LinkedIn is it goes, well, here's everybody else they know. And in business. And so that really helps the CEO fraud guys, because they're going, well, I need to build an org chart, figure out who's the comptroller, because I need to know the comptroller and I need to know the CFO, because I need to send an email from the CFO to the comptroller that says, hey, we need to start this new project right after he gets on the plane at 11:45 on a Tuesday. You know, I'm going to St. Louis and these guys are gonna need the down payment for us to get started on this project. Well, boy, that's a legitimate email, right? I mean, he's on the plane, he's going to St. Louis, he's working with those guys. Who else would know that? Well, the guy that's been reading his email for the last 3 months. He knows. Yeah.
So how, have you tracked any back to the OPM breach several years ago?
Not personally. I mean, I guarantee that, you know, FBI and NSA guys have, or whoever, Secret Service guys, I guess, are doing a lot of the financial fraud stuff. I have had plenty of clients that they've gotten breached, and I found it fascinating. Credit card fraud is handled by the Secret Service. I didn't know that. So, you know, Secret Service guys show up. I'm like, don't you protect the president? Why are you doing credit cards? You know, so, yeah, exactly.
What was the name of that password thing you used, LastPass?
LastPass. LastPass is one of my favorites. It's been purchased by the same guys that run LogMeIn, so they're kind of in the same umbrella now.
well, guys.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time. We got wraps back there. There's even a little fudge left, which I was concerned I wasn't gonna get enough fudge. There's all
That
this
is
stuff.
fantastic. I can't believe I'm good at that.
You sure? Which one?
That chocolate, I didn't try the other one yet.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to try the
Yeah,
fudge.
thank you for your time.